northern reaches of Westchester County. We have the former supervisor from the town of Somers. She is now the executive director of the Westchester County Tax Commission, so you should be. I'd like to introduce to you Mary Beth Murphy. We were told that the town of Bedford supervisor, Chris Burdick, would be here. I don't know if he slipped in, but he was going to be here, and he isn't. We're sorry that he has been here before. I'd like to introduce to you, many of you know him, the current mayor of Mount Kisco and a member of Sisqua Council, Michael Sindrich. Former mayor of Mount Kisco, a wonderful lady, a dear friend, Patricia Riley. Raise your cane, like you always do. We also have another former mayor who is also a member of Sisqua Council. He and his wife Lois are here, Mr. Ferg Mater. And we have one other notable from Mount Kisco, a former mayor of Mount Kisco for a number of years. He also was a village justice for several years. My good friend for over 60 years, Mr. Henry V. Kenton. In 2009 and re-elected in 2013 with a 13-point margin in victory, which is quite significant. He was a Republican, as you know, the Republican conservative candidate for governor in November of 2014, last year, and he won 41% of the vote, which is an outstanding performance. He has held the line on taxes in Westchester County. It's a tough morning. He has held the line on taxes in Westchester County, and his efforts have led to the creation of more than 30,000 jobs in Westchester. Deserves a round of applause. Before he became county executive, Rob worked in the radio industry before becoming county executive, as I said, including being program director for the Catholic Channel. He also helped launch ESPN Radio in New York as the station's senior producer. Bob has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Fordham University and has studied in Spain at the Enformex School of International Studies. Rob lives in Hawthorne with his wife Sheila and his 3 young children. So without further delay or ado, our Westchester County.
Thank you very, very much. You're going to be following me? I might walk around a little bit. Just give you notice. Italians use their arms and their legs. It is very nice to be back here with Sisqua Council. Second time, so it's really good to see some friendly faces and meet some new friends. Father Clark, Father Bill, thank you for all that you do for the church. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm sure many people appreciate it, and I do intend to get to. I'm sorry I couldn't go to the Mass this morning. I was actually at a Baptist Mass in Mount Vernon at 9:30, and I will say this, as a Catholic, I can get away with saying this, they sing much better than we do. But I'm glad to be here, and I will be back to one of the Masses. So, a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank the strong arm of the church, strong right arm of the church, as John Paul II said about the Knights of Columbus. Thank you for all that you do for the church and our community. We have a vibrant Knights of Columbus in Mount Pleasant, where I am, in Thornwood, Hawthorne, that council, St. Dominic Council. And, you know, whenever I get a chance to thank the Knights, I do. When I was at the Catholic Channel, I was in New Haven often meeting at the Knights and trying to get them to be involved, and they have since come on, after I've left the station, though, they've since come on and they sponsor Cardinal Dolan's radio show, which goes nationwide. So they have been tremendous. I've been to, I think, 4 national Knights of Columbus conventions when I was at the Catholic Channel, including, and I don't know who picked this, Phoenix in August. I'm not sure if that one. But it really was 115 degrees every day and dropped down to 103 at night. But it's, I really do mean what I say, that the Knights are tremendous, and I appreciate all that you do. And I would meet, when I was running last year, going around the state, I would meet a lot of Knights. They would come up to me and just say, you know, thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for standing tall. I get it, I appreciate it. But it was really a comforting feeling, and you know, when you're on I-90 at 10 o'clock at night, you know, and you want to just get home, or you're in one of the other 61 counties in this state, and it's a huge state, it's a beautiful state, and you just want to get back to your own bed and see your kids and wife. What really sustained me was how many people came up to me along the way and said, I'm praying for you. And that meant a lot to me. It really, truly did. It was sort of a sustenance that kept me going to the next day and getting through the race, which we knew was going to be very difficult. But I am proud that, you know, given the fact that we had pebbles to throw and your neighbor down the road had nuclear bombs attacking that we still, after Governor Cuomo spent $45 million in basically pure, harsh, false, negative advertising against me, to our $5 million. That we actually won the state 49-46 outside the 5 boroughs. And then they started counting votes in the Bronx and it was over. But I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the fact that I was being attacked with those $45 million for the right reasons. I was being attacked because I was proud to be a practicing Catholic. And I wasn't afraid to continue with what I believe in. And while the governor was trying to push a bill for 3rd trimester abortion in New York, I'm fighting back. And I'm the radical. $45 million being spent calling me out of touch. But we didn't flinch, and we would come right back at them with whatever we had. But ultimately, we didn't lose because of abortion. I didn't lose because I'm a Catholic. We lost because we didn't have enough money to get our message out. And that, unfortunately, is how it is in politics. But I'm proud of the race we ran and the banner that we carried, and the fight continues. You know, it continues every day in public life for the things that you believe in. And that's one of the things that I want to just talk to you about for a minute, because it's so easy, and I apologize, my back is to you. It's so easy in public life to sort of put aside what you believe in because you hear noise. You hear noise on the other side screaming at you. And it would have been easy, even in this position as county executive, when a bill that was masked, as most of these are, under, you know, women's rights or something that's hard to be against. How could you be against women's rights? I'm not. And I think the vast majority of people who believe that abortion is wrong are not. But there was a bill that came up in the county. It was called the Clinic Access Bill. There was tremendous pressure. What this did was basically anyone who wanted to peacefully protest against abortion at these clinics would have to be about 4 miles away. And they went further in saying that if anyone at the clinic, for any reason, even just felt slightly threatened by those rosary beads, that Westchester County would have to go after the protesters for civil violations, take them to civil court. And I thought this was frightening. And so I vetoed it on a number of reasons. It was called everything you could imagine in the book. And fortunately, we were able to hold enough of the legislators to sustain the veto, and it was stopped. But I was viciously attacked for it, and then it became a 30-second commercial and all this other stuff. So it's easy to just say, who needs this? I don't need this. I just want to go home. I don't need this. But too many people have said, who needs this? too many people said, you know what, I'll just go to the other side. It's not really what I believe in, but at least they'll like me. Where are we today because of that? Now, I would argue, I think our world is upside down. And we've got to fight back. And we've got to be willing to put our values in front of us and to run on them and to stand firm. And so we try to do that in everything that we do. And the tone has to be set from the top. And so I try to be very consistent in my beliefs, very consistent in what we believe in with regard to our public policy as well. So I have an award that I got yesterday right here in Mount Kisco at the Holiday Inn was the Right to Life, the Westchester Putnam Right to Life breakfast, which I go to every year. And a couple of years ago I was honored with their award for the Defender of Life and Justice. And it's a St. Michael statue, which I put in my office. And generally when TV stations or whatever come into the office, there's a few places we could, in front of the flags, or maybe at the desk, where I pretend I'm writing, or where I have my little fort in the corner, my little fort and banners and everything, and I put that right on that desk. And sometimes, when I first put it up, some of the staff members would say, do you really want that in the scene? Do you really want that? They might say something. Yeah, I want that. I want people to realize I'm proud of that. I want people to see that so it maybe gives strength to other people to not have to worry about standing firm in your beliefs in public life. Because if you see where this world is going, you see what's going on in Canada, what's going on in America with these human rights commissions and others, where there's a balance that's needed. But right now, and you know it as Catholics, we're probably the last ones where discrimination is fine. And now, just for thinking certain ways, you're going to be punished and fined and ostracized. We've got to fight back. We've got to be able to fight back and stand strong in what we believe in. Just a quick story, and I want to take some questions and answers. I'll give my answers to whatever you ask. But as the Catholic channel, so in 2006, I got an email from a friend of mine that I went to at Fordham. And it was, hey, are you still Catholic? Email that replied back, yes. He said the Archdiocese of New York is joining with Sirius XM satellite radio to start this new Catholic channel. It's going to go nationwide, and they're looking for somebody to launch it and run it. And he said, would you be interested in doing this? And my background has always been radio and TV. But my first thought was, oh God, no, this is going to be boring. No, I don't want to do this. And then I'm like, I just want to go down to Sirius XM to meet the senior programmers and everyone and just get a foot in the door, so I'll go in. So I was asked at this interview with the Archdiocesan Communications Director, Joe Zwilling, and the Senior VP for Sirius, if I could start a Catholic channel, how would I program it? And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is either going to go really bad or it's going to go really well. They said, look, I think we need to reach people who have fallen away from the church. Or I think we need to reach people who are average Catholics. And when I say average Catholics, they go to church every week. Maybe they don't go every week because they've got soccer practice to drive the kids to. Or they've got this or they've got that. And their life is crazy. But that's how my life is. My wife and I have 3 kids and our life is crazy. This morning, my 5-year-old had lacrosse clinic. 9 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. And last night at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, we had a game up in Putnam County, and we had a game here. And today we've got a 6 o'clock game. So my life is just like everybody else's. And I watch the Yankees, and I watch the Ranger game. So I think I'm just a normal, average Catholic. So I want to meet and I want to talk to people like that. And I want passionate radio. I want fun radio. I want priests who are broadcasters. And I want lay people who are broadcasters. And quite frankly, because there's plenty of places that do the rosary on the air all the time, we need to be a little different. I want Notre Dame sports. Yeah. I put Fordham sports on it. Yeah. And I said, that's perfect. That's who we'd like to meet. And I said, and Cardinal Egan, we're going to do a radio show together. Because I want to show the other side of Cardinal Egan that people don't know about. So Cardinal League and I did a radio show every week for 40 years while I was there. I would meet at St. Patrick's Cathedral at the residence at 8 in the morning. We'd have breakfast, we'd talk about everything, and then we would do the radio show at 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock. So I was with Cardinal League for literally every Thursday just about for 4 years together. And I just became very comfortable, and he would after a while just say, just go get your own breakfast, just go in the kitchen, make your coffee, and blah, blah, blah. And we would talk, and I would hardly ever see him in his clerics because he was at his own home. So he was in a flannel shirt or whatever. And we just became very comfortable. So one time we were coming back from a commercial break, and the music's in the ear, and I'm ready to take it back. And I said, welcome back to the Catholic Channel on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. I'm Rob Astorino, along with Ed Egan. Now, thank God it was radio. But I'm looking at it and I could just feel, when you feel embarrassed or your face, you just feel it getting warm and red. And without missing a beat, he goes, no, 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 no. Eddie, oh my goodness. And that was the kind of relationship we had. But the great thing about the show was that it really gave listeners around the country, but specifically in the Archdiocese, a different perspective of Ed Egan. Most people just thought he was a disciplinarian and everything, but he really, really was a good man, and he really, really had a great sense of humor and a normalcy about him that didn't come out, so that was one thing. And then when he retired and Cardinal Dolan came in, it was like just 180 degrees different. And I first met then Bishop Dolan, Archbishop Dolan, in Milwaukee when I was out. One of the jobs I had was to go around the country and interview bishops. So when I first met Archbishop Dolan in, I think, 2008, I go to the Catholic Center in Milwaukee, and we chatting for a while before the radio show, and we take the interview, and he had me laughing the whole time. And when the interview was over, we're chatting, I'm ready to leave, and I said, is there like a restaurant you recommend in downtown Milwaukee? We're going to go get some dinner and everything. So he says, are you by yourself? I said, yeah. So he said, well, I'm going to parishioner's house for some beers and brats to watch the Brewers game. Why don't you come? and so from that point on, the minute he came, when he was announced to be the Archbishop of New York, taking over for Cardinal Egan, it was the best pick the Pope ever made. And Cardinal Dolan has fit very well in New York. So I loved my time at the Catholic Channel. I really and truly did. And one Pope Benedict story, and then I'll take your questions. So when Pope Benedict was announced that he was coming to America in 2008, I was charged with sort of running the whole papal trip for the media event as far as the Catholic Channel, which was very intricate. You're dealing with the Vatican, which is like 100 years behind on communications and everything else. You're dealing with security, you're dealing with all the stops in Washington and in New York. And I was fortunate to have sort of behind-the-scenes view of this whole papal trip. And so on the Catholic Channel, we didn't really air commercials. They were more like announcements and stuff. So I said to Cardinal Egan, I said, do you think we got any shot at getting Pope Benedict to give a promo for the Catholic Channel? So I thought he would laugh, And he goes, I'm going to try to get this done. So I said, all right, do you want me to do, right, he goes, no, don't, I'll figure out the right way to do this. So he comes to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now that week, we had all the security we had to go through, and we sort of wrote out about a 30-second ad, if you will, for the Catholic Channel that the Pope was hopefully going to say. So the day of, and we still were not sure, we didn't get any confirmation from the Vatican that he was going to do this. But we were told to set up and be ready. So we would normally do the show in the Cardinal's residence. We put up this whole big banner on the Catholic Channel, Sirius XM Satellite Radio. We had the microphone with the mic flag. I mean, this was like, the Pope was going to do a promo, like when I'm in New York, I listen to the Catholic Channel. But Mass had ended. It was the Saturday Mass at St. Patrick's. And I'm waiting, which is me and one other person waiting in the room. And we got the confirmation about 30 minutes before that the Pope was going to do this. So I'm waiting, and from the room I was in, where it was sort of like a study, outside the hall there's a mirror, a chapel, and then there's an elevator. And so the elevator door opens, and out comes this guy all in white. And I'm like, oh my God, he's actually gonna do this. So he comes in the room, and now all week, I'm thinking, do I kiss the ring or not? What do I do? Is this protocol? Do I have to? Do I? So Joe's Willing from the archdiocese said, man, it's up to you, but you probably should do it. So, and they take pictures, the official photographers take pictures of everything. So I'm like, all right. So he comes in the room, and it was me, it was Joe Willing, and one other person. And so Joe goes first. And so the Pope then comes, and I go down, he puts out his hand. And remember the Buffalo Bills in the 90s? They lost all the Super Bowls. But remember their kicker, Scott Norwood? Very famous, because his kick to win the game against the Giants, right? Yeah. Was wide right. So the Pope puts his hand down, and I go to kiss the ring, and I got nothing but knuckle. You don't get a do-over. You don't grab the hand back and hold it. So the Pope actually went, sat down, he does his promo, and he basically, the first time he kind of winged it, and he messed up a little bit. So he said, do you mind if I do a second? So he does the second one. And it was wonderful, The Pope mentioned Sirius XM satellite radio, etc. So when he's done, he turns and, Father, you're like where I was. You and Cardinal Egan were there. And the Pope turns to me and said, was that okay? What am I going to say? Take two, a little more emotion. But it was radio gold. It really was. It was actually a story. USA Today did this story. It was picked up all over the world, really, that the Pope, basically for the first time ever, a Pope did a public service announcement / promo / commercial for something. So it was an amazing day in my life, and it was really great. And it was all because of Cardinal Egan. So I just want to leave you with one quote and take some questions. So this came from St. Paul. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Not bad, huh? Okay, any questions I can answer? Yes, sir.
Mr. Astorino, you're just talking about religion and starting new stations. Do you ever watch EWTN?
I do, yeah.
How do you like it?
We worked with the WTN when I was
Do
there.
you what? I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
I know all the priests on EWTN.
Yep.
I've been watching them for years.
Yeah.
And it's very nice program.
It is.
How do you compete to that?
Well, we don't, and that's what I was trying to tell them. We're not going to compete with an EWTN because that had a corner on the market, and that was basically for devout Catholics who go to church even daily. And ours was sort of an offshoot from EWTN to be a little more contemporary. And I mean, we had a comedian on the air. We had, as I said, priests who were broadcasters, Paulist priests who was very contemporary. So we had, and it's still on. If you have Sirius XM, go to channel 129. That's the Catholic channel. So we tried to be a little different from EWTN.
I'll tell you one little story. I saw you the other day at Playland. Thank God you're keeping Playland.
No, thank you.
Because the little kids need Playland.
Yep.
There's enough homes around here, all over the world.
No, Playland is very important, but Playland was losing $3 to $4 million a year, which is unacceptable.
They shouldn't be losing it now, the way you're going to.
Well, no, now that we've got a private company coming in, they're going to put $25 million into Playland in the next couple of years. They're going to pay the county $300,000 each year, which increases every year. The county's going to get 7.5% of the profits. So it takes away our losses and risks. It puts the real, amusement park experts into the game at Playland to do what we can't do as taxpayers. And in many ways, it saves Playland. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Can you give us an update on affordable housing in the county?
Yes. Well, affordable housing is defined very differently by each community, and affordable housing is something that the county has been doing on its own for many, many years, before me, now after me. We've won a lot of awards. The affordable housing settlement from 2009 under my predecessor requires the county to build 750 units of what is termed by HUD as low income in 31 eligible communities, mostly white and more affluent, in the 2000 census. Now, it's incumbent upon us to make sure we do this because there are benchmarks along the way, and if the county doesn't meet or exceed those benchmarks every year, the county will get fined, accumulated fines. So and I was opposed to this because of the settlement terms, which I knew were going to be very difficult and open-ended and give way too much authority to the federal government. That has turned out to be very true, because certainly this administration in Washington has become extraordinarily aggressive on Westchester and other communities, claiming that we are discriminatory and segregated and worse. And yet, those allegations, they have no substantiation to any of them. In fact, every time we tell them to give us the proof of that, they don't. They say, well, you are, na. You know, and it's terrible because they can try to get away with it, and they do. And we're always playing defense. We're the 4th most diverse county in all of New York. People don't realize that. I mean, you know that in Mount Kisco, you're a very diverse county, village. But Westchester, over 1 million people, 23% of our county population is Hispanic. 15% African American. We're the 8th largest Jewish county in America. Don't you dare make those claims against Westchester. Now, one thing I will agree, because they say we have exclusionary zoning. And so they say you purposely keep minorities out of neighborhoods, which drives me crazy. Drives me crazy when they start saying this stuff. And they have said even quarter-acre single-family residential is discriminatory. This is what we're fighting. And every time they change the goalposts. Every time they change the terms, or try to unilaterally, and I've said, no, a deal is a deal. We'll do what the county agreed to, but we're not going any further than that. And extraordinary costs, by the way. And so, we're not exclusionary. Our single-family residential is not exclusionary. It's expensive. And it's expensive for everybody. The only obstacle to owning a home for anybody, because there are places I would love to live. I'd love to live on Old House Lane or Bittersweet Lane. I can't afford it. And so, it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with property taxes, cost of the home. That's what it has to do, but it's open to all. And our zoning has been proven by outside experts to be open to all. It has nothing to do with race. Nothing. And I will not let them try to get away with that. What they're trying to do is to use these threats to take over local control of zoning. So could you imagine a federal bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., telling Mount Kisco how you will develop, who will live where, how your streets will be, and land use will be determined. I mean, this is nonsense, but this is what they're trying to do through Westchester as their test case, and we're not relenting. Yes, sir.
Are you prepared? Do you still have an established committee? Will you consider running against the secularist governor we have?
What's the question?
The question is, will he run?
I'm going to run right out of here. No, look, I do believe that we lay down a very solid foundation around the state. And unless the issues that I care deeply about go away and are addressed, which I don't see likely, then I would consider running again. But having said that, what we need to do and what we're starting to do is to raise money now. Because if the money is there in the next year or two, you have a good foundation and you can run. And it can be a fair fight, no matter who it is. If it's Cuomo or somebody else, it can be a fair fight. But
establishing exploratory committee.
no, but we can still raise money. But I think that'll play itself out in the next several years. But I do believe a Republican can get elected. I do believe a pro-life candidate can get elected in New York. pro-life Republican can get elected at 2-1 Democrat Westchester, they can get elected in New York State. That's not the issue. The issue really is the economy, taxes, how many people have left New York to go down to North Carolina, and Florida, and Texas, and everywhere else where the jobs are. That's the issue. And so, but I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. One or two more questions? Yes, sir.
It's in line with the same question. What drives you to stay and fight the fight? Because, you know, I could be one of those people moving to North
Yeah.
Carolina.
So
Why
can
should
I.
we stay, and how do you motivate yourself?
You know, when I ran in '05 against Andy Spano, I was given 0 chance to win. None. And we knew it was going to be a very tough fight. And we didn't have the money, we were outspent tremendously, same thing like last year. But I believe very strongly in the need that we needed to change direction, that people were just leaving. And so I gave it another shot, and we were able to raise the money and get the message out, because the message was the key thing. You know, they were doing the same thing in '09 against me as Cuomo did, and to try to paint me into, I mean, those commercials on TV, I can't recognize myself. This sinister-looking guy with red hand. But once we raised enough money in '09, we were able to get the message out, and the message was right, and we won. And in the last race, we won 7 of the 10 media markets in New York, because we had enough money in those media markets to actually compete, and head-to-head, we won. But, you know, being outspent 9-1, especially in the New York market, just, we could not overcome that. So if we can raise enough money the next couple of years, then at least I'll be able to make an intelligent decision whether or not we can do it. Thank you. Last one?
Rob?
Mayor! Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Was there somebody out there?
Mayor Sinders.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm gonna just, in all honesty, let me bounce that back to Mike. No, seriously, Mayor Sindrich has been phenomenal to work with, and we've worked on several big things, and one, we hope to make a big announcement next week, but he's been so easy to work with, and his interests are right on the right side of God. So I appreciate what he does for Mount Kisco, so thank you, man.
I was just going to ask Rob, what's his biggest takeaway from last November's election? You know, in terms of the political and economic environment in New York State, where we are, all the issues in Albany, which we all know are horrendous, the corruption that's up there. The Speaker of the House was just removed. He's indicted.
About time.
Yeah, and we have to vote. So I was just wondering, what was your takeaway in running against Andrew Cuomo, and where can we go, you know, to get better?
Well, the takeaway is you better have some money to fight. You know, look, I don't want to, I lost, he won. So he's the governor, he'll be the governor for the next 4 years. He's obviously an accomplished book writer. And, you know, I ultimately, the issues are gonna win out. I think he made some very ugly comments during the campaign that really attacked almost all Catholics, and he refused to apologize when he said, you know, who are these people that are right to life and gun owners?
They're not New Yorkers.
They're not real New Yorkers, and they have no real place in New York. And he never apologized for that, and he got away with it. You know, and you have a very compliant, I saw this side too, kind of a very compliant media that really doesn't challenge. And so it makes it that much harder and that much more money to overcome that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm not pessimistic, I'm optimistic. I think this state can get back to where it once was quickly. We don't have to be 50th in the nation in all these categories of highest tax, you know, worst outlook for the economy, and #1 out migration of the state. We don't have to be that way, and we shouldn't settle for that, by the way. You know, we're almost settling for mediocrity. If somebody doesn't get indicted, like, oh, we shouldn't be settling for that. So I'm optimistic. I think the state can be really great, and it's going to take some work, but you know, I think there's a lot of good people out there willing to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come. I appreciate it.
Thank you.